So back to the present for tonight's fantastic show. You've all come out to see Tom Koch, and it's going to be incredible. Let's have an opening round of applause, and let's just get him up here. 'Cause he's gonna
Can you hear me when a mic is turned on? We're going to have a little feedback, but that's okay. Hi. This is really funny. Cue the theme music. We can, perhaps. I have no control. So tonight is kind of an interesting night because there's theme music. Trying to fill in a gap.
It's like a make-up show.
Technological issues. Keep that music going.
Yes, those are Tom's actual hands.
And by the way, tonight's performance, the interviewer is going to be played, the part of the interview, let me rephrase that. The part of the interviewer is going to be played by my very first Macintosh computer. This is a PowerBook 540, and you can see it's completely pretty much eviscerated. And in the most loving of ways. It's upside down though, but see like a
Point at the actual thing.
The actual thing? Yeah. The camera's upside down though.
You can twist the camera.
Whatever. That's okay. So theme music again. Still working on the technology. Okay, working on it.
What?
This is what I live with all the time. It was working beautifully earlier.
Theme of your life.
No.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
That's an excerpt from the 6
Oh, you know what?
millimeter
I blew
film.
it
No
already.
function.
That's actually not true because I haven't queued up my. Actually, it's queued up. Hi there. Welcome to my show. This is Chaos.
Let's just go right along to Tom Koch!
Hey! These are the things that I deal with all the time. Okay, theme music in a second. I'm actually going to show a bit of a film quickly here. I haven't read my script, and that's where all this information is. So let this go, Dawson, then. No music. There we go. Excellent, I love that. Theme music.
That's an excerpt from the 16 millimeter film, No Function, which was one of 5 films selected for the 1998 Doktor/Tacky, truly independent film festival, shown at the Castro Theater. The sound on Malfunction was designed by our guest tonight, Mr. Tom Koch. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brock. Hey, it's great to be here.
You're not listed as sound designer, and in that film's credits, you're listed as audio environment engineer. What's up with that?
Well, Brock, you know, actually, I'm a sound designer, but I call myself an audio environment engineer because when I'm doing sound design, I don't just sound design, I actually design entire soundscapes. I design the entire environment. And that was an example of a film that was chosen for a couple of years ago, Doktor's Khaki Film Festival. And it was 16 millimeter. I used, I'm coming up totally blank. I used a piece of software to cut the sound, and then it was resolved back into 16 millimeter and shown with the Castro. It was really exciting. But, so yeah, I've done a lot of sound design. It's pretty exciting. And, yeah.
Fascinating. Let's change gears for a moment before we talk about your film work. You're known as a tech guy, or as you call yourself, a tech lead. How did you learn all you know, and how did you first become interested in technology?
This is really a lot more exciting at home. Well, actually, my dad was a mechanical engineer, and I was always kind of fascinated with technology, and I used to always take things apart. I wasn't always very good at putting things back together, but I like to take things apart, like radios and washing machines and stuff like that, just to sort of see how they worked. And when I was about 6 years old, my dad took apart this pocket watch, and he took it apart pretty much down to the last, like, tiny screw, and I was completely fascinated with that. He mounted it on this piece of velvet and hung it on the wall in our house, and I used to look at it all the time and go, wow, that's pretty cool. So a few years later, I got a hold of some watches, and I took them apart. I was hoping to be able to put them back together, and well, I wasn't really able to. You know, the spring sort of like totally sprung out, and it was really, really difficult to put it back in. Hey, Brock, have you ever tried to put a spring back into a watch, like after you've taken it out?
No.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard. It's actually really, really hard. And so I ended up having like just this huge pile of taken apart watches. And I ended up just putting it in a Tupperware container. And it actually is still in that Tupperware container to this day. I lost it in my storage somewhere. I found it about 5 years ago, and I tried to remember where it was to bring it here, but I couldn't find it. So.
It's in your freezer.
It's probably in my freezer, you're right. But my great-grandfather was really cool. He was a huge inspiration to me. He was sort of a general tinkerer. He pinstriped cars for a living. He was a photographer. And he did all kinds of really pretty amazing stuff. And I just really enjoyed, you know, going into his garage workshop and just the smell, and it was just totally fascinating. So that's, you know, pretty much technology. I've always been into technology in one way or another. Yep. So it all started with watches.
Were you fascinated with time itself, or just watches?
Well, kind of both. I was fascinated with time in the sense that it was like, you know, time was this sort of esoteric concept that represented time, and the watches were a physical manifestation of that representation. And people were totally focused on time and living in time, and so I really enjoyed that. That was pretty exciting. And of course, I mean, technology. So that was pretty exciting. And it was a tiny, tiny little neat technology. And when I was in high school, I actually used to tell my friends to like go raid their parents' drawers and get me all the broken watches they could. And I used to wear them. I used to wear them like up and down my arms. You know, I'd have like all these watches up and down my arms. And this is actually like my favorite. If I can get it in the damn camera.
There you go.
This is my favorite watch. This is I love digital watches. LED digital watches are quite nice, and this is my favorite one. It lights up. It's really exciting.
What vintage is that?
I think it's like 1974. I don't know, because they don't really date watches, unfortunately.
Where'd you get it?
I got it at I got it on eBay, ironically. I'm like one of those crazy. I have to stay away from eBay. Actually, eBay has everything I've ever wanted, and so I kind of have to stay away from it. But when eBay first started, it was like God. I was like, wow, I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to go to a garage sale or swap meet. You know, there it is. So I bought this lot of watches for probably about $12, and it was a bunch of disassembled watches, LED watches, and this one was one of them. And it worked. It worked. I was so excited because the problem with watches of the LED style is they tend to not work, and they're super inefficient. They take a lot of power. They take 2 large batteries inside, and you know, 9 times out of 10 you'll get one, you'll think you're totally happy and stoked, and you'll put batteries in it, and it will not work. So I have a lot of broken ones, but this is my favorite one. So that's pretty exciting. Oh, and also, you know what? In college, it was really funny. I'm always wearing a watch. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed, but I'm always wearing a watch. And in college, a lot of my friends couldn't tell the time because they didn't wear watches unless I was around. You know, so they would be like, "Where's Tom? What time is it?" So I was like the time guy. You know, like I was the guy that always had the watch. So anyway, but you know, I got into like quantum physics, which dealt a lot with time, and pretty exciting, like subjective observance of time.
What time is it, Tom?
Currently, it is, you know, it's upside down camera thing is really disconcerting. It is 8:26.
All right.
But unfortunately, this chronometer is not hooked into any kind of atomic clock, so don't quote me on that time.
And so, did you take apart computers then?
I didn't really take apart computers then. I really, really wanted to, but I didn't have access to computers then. Because it was, you know, computers didn't exist. Well, they actually did, but like I couldn't go into like, you know, an office and go, hey, can I take apart your IBM 960? You know, I mean, people wouldn't let me do that. So later, like in high school, I was really into computers, and I started taking apart friends like Franklin's, which were Apple clones, which you actually build from a kit, and you know, popping into people's Apple computers and looking at their trash 80s and their VIC 20s and stuff like that. So, but now I love getting inside of computers, and I actually do that as a living. I'm a Macintosh technician, so that's what I do.
One of the main ways that people in San Francisco may have first met and worked with you was Russell Space, the Mission District-based art collective which you co-founded. An online viewer wanted to know, what did you do before that?
Well, Brock, I did a lot of stuff before that. Can't tell you about any of it, though. I'd have to kill you. No, actually, what I did before that is I went to college in a couple different places, but I studied a lot of photography because I was going to be a filmmaker, and so I studied tons of that, and in doing so, I learned a huge amount of technology, and I also, just by doing, not by taking classes, I actually was like the guy who, in the photography department, when digital photography was first starting, I was the guy that went in and taught everybody else how to use the digital imaging tools. And so by doing so, I learned all the Macintosh stuff I needed to know, pretty much. So, and that was like 1991 and 1992. I did a lot of filmmaking then also. I was actually a triple major, but I decided that I wanted to graduate sometime in the 20th century. So I was a filmmaker and a creative writing major and photography major, but I decided to just do a major and 2 minors. And I was also the president of the Long Beach Cinema Society, where we did like a bunch of Spike and Mike film shows. I ran film shows at local coffee houses, titles like Happy Films by Unhappy People. That was one of the shows that we did. That was pretty fun. And lots of like turtle dissection films, cut up with like sort of like horrible accident films. And those were really super popular when you're drinking your latte. And so that was pretty fun. Oh yeah, I also did a lot of visuals for this lesbian bar called Que Sera, and where I'd set up huge amounts of projectors, like 6 projectors going at once in this tiny little bar, because I was a nut, and there was no room for people, much less my equipment. So I did a lot of that, and that was pretty exciting.
Would you like to show us some of your early films?
Well, I don't know. I don't. Well, they're actually pretty embarrassing.
Well, we already have them queued up.
Oh. All right. You couldn't see that coming, could you? All right, let's see if I can work this technology. Hey, watch it, mister. Oh, that's the end of that film. I did sound design for that, by the way.
Good crane action.
Hey, thanks. That was live Foley. I took pieces of paper and did everything. Okay, what do we got here? Well, this is actually, well, I'm in this film. This is actually a film by Scott Kuiper called Stillborn. This is a high art school filmmaking. This is in my garage. He subjected me to this and my legs cramped up, so when I actually stand up, I slipped and fell. It was horrible. He cut that out. And this is the famous... Shush. Give it away. The butt scene. Actually, Neurosis bought this footage and used it all over Europe, and apparently my buddy did show me all over Europe. And so when I met the Neurosis people, they were like, hey, you're the butt guy. Well, I guess. Sure. Okay. This was my first film in film school. It was actually done in video, high 8 to VHS. And I made films to annoy, and also that caused pain. And, thank you. A lot of people said this looked like an Excedrin headache commercial. Or an anti-smoking campaign. I thought it was pretty good. I used like a light from like an aquarium, and a camera. That's about it. So, but it goes on like this for a long time. Long time. Yeah, that was a digital watch. That was like a circa 1992 digital watch, probably a Casio. And actually, the soundtrack is by Gustavo and Scott Kuiper from years and years and years ago. And that soundtrack was a huge inspiration for me to become. This was shot on Super 8 4X, the best film stock of all time that Kodak discontinued about 10 years ago, or 5 years ago. And it was 400 speed. This is a film that I used to show. It was really popular at the film shows. I always had to bring it along just in case. Because like people are like, show the... Well, you'll see. snail film. So that's actually not the original title. I don't remember the original title, but people always wanted to see the snail film. And this was a film that actually got me banned in Saudi Arabia because of this shot. These are not even real boobs. And yet, my parents lived in Saudi Arabia for a while, and I would come and visit them several times. And they had to review my videotapes. They saw that I had videotapes in my luggage and said, we need to review this. And so they did. And the guy brought me into this little cubicle, this little office, and he said, unacceptable. And I'm like, what? And he pointed out that shot. And I'm like, dude, it's fake. It's a mannequin. And they would have nothing of it. So literally, after a week's worth of phone calls, as I was ascending the stairs to the plane, they handed me the tape back so I could take it home and off of their soil. So that's what these people are all about. All right, I think I need to stop here. That one's actually called Inanimate Adoration. That was pretty fun bit.
Thanks, Tom.
That's the only reason why I
I
showed it.
hope we haven't embarrassed you too much.
Not really.
Was that Brock Kedman doing the camera work?
Yeah, I think that was actually. I think it was the camera was playing Brock Kedman playing a Howard book, acting as a camera. I think is what was going on there. Yeah.
In that
It
case,
gets even better.
you do have one more of your early works. Apparently this was when you were in high school.
Oh, don't show that. Not that.
I'm sorry, Tom. It's already in my queue. This is a music video of the song That Boy Could Dance by Weird Al Yankovic. This was directed by Mike Rogers in 1986 when Tom was 17 years old for a video production class at Oakland High School in Roseville, California. This is the first time it has been seen by more than 5 people.
It's true, actually. Let me tell you a story about this real quick. I haven't seen this film since high school. And a friend of mine, Darren Orr, who actually lives in Alameda, and he was sort of the reason why I went to film school in Long Beach, because I went to high school with him in Sacramento. He, about 2 months ago, gave me a call and said, oh my God, you won't believe what I just found. He found from the actual filmmaker, had a tape of all of our student projects. And it was very funny, and this is the student project.
Dude, that hair.
This is 1985. Check out the lip syncing. Yeah, he's really good. That's the director, Mike Rogers. Not sure what was going on with that. Lip syncing. Well, that was pretty humbling, I must say. Yeah, so that was me in circa 1985, and it wasn't far from what I actually looked like. The hair was real. Okay, yeah, that was pretty funny.
So back to what you did when you moved to San Francisco. When was that?
I moved to San Francisco in 1993. I met this guy at a Pixel show in Venice, California. I had a Pixel video showing at the Pixel Disc Film Show, and my friend Dylan Elfie, or actually I met this guy there, and he lived in San Francisco and said, hey, you should move up to San Francisco, it's great. And I said, oh, you know, actually I am moving up to San Francisco. Because I formed a video production company with another friend from high school, who was also in that same video production class. That should have warned me then. So I moved up to San Francisco, and we were going to make videos, but I ended up getting a job at AVTS, which is Audio Video Technical Services, and that's where I learned to be the true professional AV dweeb. That was where it all, well, not where it all started, but pretty much where it all continued. And so that was pretty exciting. I really enjoyed working there. That was really good. I formed a couple of bands, and I did that.
Sound design?
I did that a couple of times. Thank you. My lovely assistant. Yeah, so I did a lot of sound design then. I worked at AVTS and I also became a sound designer. And I sound designed for really early web stuff, right when the web was sort of, people were just going, remember the billboards where they actually said http://www? Like, this was before that, you know. When people first put that up, people were like, what the hell is that? You know, why is there not a phone number? And so I did a lot of sound design for vapor technology mostly. They were different kinds of like avatar-based things where people were trying to build these beautiful virtual spaces, and I was doing the ambient soundscapes, thus the audio environment engineer. And so I did a lot of that. I did a lot of CD-ROM games, and did a bunch of projects that were tiny. Like I did a project with Neil Stevenson, actually. It was a project called Daymare, and that was a super cool project utilizing some incredibly advanced software technology. It was sort of pre-QuickTime VR stuff. And unfortunately, it was horribly mismanaged. We've never heard of that before. And the company, unfortunately, went bust. And we had this beautiful game design with some incredible sound design and really amazing graphics, real-time video, and we couldn't do it. It just didn't happen. So, and I ended up running into Neil Stevenson a little while later, and he was like really pissed off because they totally burned him. And that was kind of a bummer because he's one of my favorite writers, and I wanted to like, hey, I was the sound designer on Daymare, and it was very exciting. And he was like, Daymare, don't talk to me about Daymare. So, anyway, so I formed a band called Hollow Earth, and you know, I did a bunch of stuff there. Brock, can I talk about Hollow Earth now?
No, not now.
Okay. Are you sure?
No, not now.
Okay. Alright, whatever. So I did a bunch of stuff doing vapor technology work mostly. There's actually a couple of games that got released that I worked on. One called Bonsai Bug, another one was, which was a cool, like, really virtual 3D game. It was a flight sim, but you were a bug. And you were flying through an exterminator's house, and you were trying to save your friends. It was pretty neat game. That was like the most involved sound design project I had done. It took about a year and a half, and it was super crazy.
And it was never released?
It was released, actually. It was an actual cardboard boxed game. You could walk into your local CompUSA and buy it off the shelf. Wasn't there very long, but it certainly was there. And also, people in Britain totally dug it. So, like, it sold really, really well in Britain, but it hardly sold over here. So that was pretty disappointing. But we hired like a real band, like a full-on like big band, and we recorded them and cut them up and concatenated their sound, and you know, did these beautiful loops. And it was an amazing project. That was really fun. And where I worked was a place called New Dog Music, and this guy that I worked with was named Paul Godwin, and he actually saw me play at a show with Hollow Earth. We played a Christmas show, a Wired Christmas Party, and we did the music for a group called Collapsing Silence, which was a Buteau troupe. And we were sort of the background musicians doing like the weird ambient crazy stuff, and so I met him, and that was pretty neat. But I'm talking about Hollow Earth again. Should I talk about Hollow Earth?
How did you get interested in electronic
You already
music
said that.
and noise?
No, you haven't said that yet. We're jumping ahead.
No,
Here we go.
not now.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right. Not now. You know, when you deal with technology, these are the things you have to put up with. Because ultimately, technology is designed by human beings, and human beings are certainly flawed. So, let's see. Oh, okay. So, you know, it was right about that time that when I was working at AVTS, and I was also doing huge amounts of sound design, we formed Cell. And Cell was a really amazing, crazy space. I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but it's a pretty cool little warehouse. But I had to quit AVTS because Cell started taking up larger and larger amounts of my time. So I just began freelancing sound design while I was working Cell. I was a co-founder and also as a technical director. So I was basically running all the shows every weekend, all the time. And it was a lot of work.
And you paid how much?
I got paid $0. I got paid the pleasure to use my own equipment and abuse it and get it stolen. That's what I got paid. So, but you know, hey, it was all for the love. It was great. I mean, I met some beautiful, amazing people there. I certainly wouldn't be on this stage if not for Cell. I met, Danielle and Mikl through Cell, and I mean, scores of other incredible people. The most amazing thing about Cell is when I was doing shows there all the time, doing the technology of people's shows, I kept thinking, like, wow, this person is just blowing my mind. This is like, I keep continually meeting the most amazing people and like thinking, oh, I've reached a pinnacle. There's no way there's any more interesting people in San Francisco. And the next week I would meet like a whole slew of new interesting people, and my mind would get blown again. So
That's why your hair sticks up like that? Or?
yeah, that's true. That's true. My mind was blown too many times, and also Dave's pies. That's another reason why I had my mind blown a little bit. In fact. Brock, Brock, weren't you? Oh, I have another thing to show you here. Actually, I'm going to show you another film. Actually, this is one that I did sound design on, and it was really, really fun. It was called Spittle and Fud. Oh yeah. Yes. This was an incredible project that I worked on with a guy named T. Reed Norton, and he did a film called The Lizard Womper, and that actually toured the circuit for a little while. And the animation sort of short film circuit. So he decided to make a series called The Misadventures of Spittle and Fud. And MTV and Comedy Central were super interested in it, and they wrote 12 episodes and brought me on, and I did the sound design for the pilot episode. And then, unfortunately, they balked, and they said, well, I don't think it's appropriate. They said it was a little too gross. So, I'll let you see what they mean.
Yeah.
Yay, gross.
You people don't like gross.
Yay, gross.
If anyone gets really, really ill, you know where the bathroom is. Or puke on your neighbor. Is this working? Check it. Icky. MTV, those fucking milquetoast bastards, didn't like it because they said it was, you know, too much. And I was like, you know, too much, my ass. So we never got the contract, we never got the deal, and the rest is history. Yeah, so I didn't get rich and famous then like I planned. We were already spending the money. What was that, Brock?
Let's talk about Cell Space.
We already did.
You were one of the founding members. Cell stands for Chicken's Endless Litigation Lessons.
No, actually, it doesn't stand for Chicken's Endless Litigation Lessons. It actually stood originally for Collectively Explored Learning Labs. I'm not sure where it is there, where it is now with that particular definition. Basically, the story about how Cell came about is I met Jonathan Ute, and he was actually the drummer in our band Hollow Earth. We needed a drummer, one of the didgeridoo players. We had a bunch of didgeridoo players because they were really hot then. Said, hey, I know this drummer guy. Yeah, we really need a drummer. So John came over, and he was a great drummer. It was fun, and a couple months later, he said, hey, I got this space that I live at. You know, the people who do screening down below, they do silk screening down below, are moving out. And the landlord said, hey, we could take over this huge space. We all looked at it and we went, yeah. So we did, and we took on Cell. And it was, like I said before, it was really amazing and really exciting. I'm no longer there, as you all know, or perhaps not all of you, but some of you know.
Are you going to tell us about Hollow Earth now?
Yeah, I think I already kind of did. Hollow Earth was a band. We played a lot. We played around a lot, and we mostly played behind the Butoh Troupe, Collapsing Silence, and I know I've already talked about Hollow Earth. I don't need to talk about it again. I was basically the electronics guy. I was the guy doing the bloops and the bleeps in the background while we had like shakuhachi flute. We had singing bells and bowls and singing throat, and you know, a score and a half of didgeridoos, and you know, it was pretty nuts. They were all like the guys that showed up, like, dude, like, where's the mic? And I was the guy who set up that mic, and hooked it up, made it work, and then they were off smoking dope while I was like breaking everything down. So that was my experience with didgeridoo players. And
Because it was the 90s.
right, you're right, totally. And the amount of spit that comes out of a didgeridoo is outrageous. I would put contact mics on the ground, and they would be literally swimming in saliva. All right, so like that can't be hygienic. Do not use another didgeridoo player's stick or whatever they call it. So basically, you know, I was dealing with all these acoustic instrument people, and I was the dude that hooked up all the electronics. So, you know, I got really frustrated really quick, and so I said, you know, I'm going to do this on my own. And so I did it on my own, and
You bought a didgeridoo?
I bought a didgeridoo. I souped it up with some electronics. I turned it into a blender, and I left it at home. And I brought all of my electronics with me, and I started, let me see if I can get there yet. I don't want to get ahead of myself, because Brock gets really mad when I jump ahead of the script. Because, you know, like I said before, it's just a dumb computer. I'm Fortunately, it's not
There are
as...
no dumb humans involved.
Right. They're all smart humans that built this dumb computer. Although I love my computer. It's great. Okay. Yeah, so I basically went on and I started doing my own stuff, and I went under several names. I was univac. I also met this guy named Peter Washburn, and we formed a thing called the Modern Univac, which is now currently the Univac Index, because he's known as Index. And I also go by the name of God's Grandparents. So that's pretty much my main solo gig, and that uses, when I'm doing like all kinds of technology and visuals and audio and that kind of thing, I go by God's Grandparents. What was that, Brock? I can't find the keys on this. I can see you, but I'm just dumb.
Tom, I hate to cut you off, but we've got a caller on
It's
the
okay, you
line
don't have to cut me
who has a question about Cell. Go ahead, caller.
Well, apparently our caller is...
Hi, Brock. Hi, Tom.
Wow, now we're raving. I think the hard drive spun down.
Hi, Brock. Hi, Tom.
That's the problem with PowerBooks. Sometimes the hard drives spin down and it takes a little while for it to catch up. I mean, this is a 6804 ELC machine. Come on! We're like talking G4s now. Okay, what was that again? What did you say?
Hi, Brock.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Tom.
Caller, could you turn your radio down?
Sorry. Mr. Koch, I was wondering.
That's Coke. Thank you. Yeah, people always do that.
Caller, can you state your name and where you're calling from, please?
Sorry. My name's Deborah and I'm calling from Pensacola, Florida. And I was just wondering, Mr. Koch,
Coke.
how did you and Phil co-founder Trenchy meet?
Oh, that's a pretty interesting story. Yeah, Trenchy and I met. And Trenchy's actually, oh, you know, I have photographs somewhere. You know, hang on a second. Brock, can you wait? You okay? Here, I'll show you some interesting stuff in the meantime. Anyone seen my photographs? Oh, here they are. I don't know where the other ones went that you just gave me, Michael. I've already lost them. Can you believe it?
Excuse me.
Where did it put it back? All right, well, you know, here, give me a... You know, this is the magic of live theater or technology or whatever the hell it is we're doing here. Live talking. You have to hold this upside down because that's the way we are. So, this is Trenchy Rapplegee's actual guise. This is what she looks like when she wakes up in the morning before she's able to put on her makeup and wig. Actually, what?
That was at your wedding.
This was at my wedding, but we'll talk about that later. Because Kent hates when or Brock. I keep making. I'm sorry, Brock.
Get sued, man. Fox is gonna sue you.
It's Brock Kentman. Okay, so he gets really upset when I go off the script, but that's Trenchy. So I met Trenchy actually at the early Hollow Earth show. We were playing a show at 1015 Folsom, and I hope I'm not boring you, caller. Are you okay? I don't know if you're around anymore, but John Ute and was doing this monkey thump thing, and Trenchy Rapplegee was there, and like she was really funny and weird, and we ended up being roommates later. At Cell, she was the event coordinator, pardon me, and she pretty much also sort of became our sister in sort of a weird way. Weird good, not weird bad. Okay? Is that all you wanted to hear?
Well, you are the age of my brother, so...
Oh yeah, that's true.
Is that
See?
Trenchy?
There you go. Yeah, Trenchy's right here.
Trenchy.
In person. I don't think I can actually see her.
Spin around first.
There she is. She looks like
Right
a
at the
ghost.
camera, Trenchy.
Hey, Trenchy, you're looking a little peckish. You okay? Oh, that's not you, is it? No, it is you. All right.
Right.
You know, I just got to get rid of all this technology. It's just not working.
Be natural, Tom. It's okay.
I have to hide behind my technology. I'm very insecure.
How did you get interested in electronic music and noise?
Well, Brock, I actually, in high school, I used to listen to, actually, here's the funnier story. In high school, I was in a band called Kashmir. Now that's K-H-A-S-H-M-I-R. We were a Duran Duran cover band.
That's what the hair was all about.
And I was the singer.
No! Did you get all the chicks for that? Did you get
Actually, here's the funny thing. We did get all the chicks. We never played a show. We were just a bunch of pretty boys. And we rehearsed in this guy's garage like, a handful of times. And someone apparently recorded it, like actually snuck over to the garage, put a microphone underneath the garage door, and played it to our guitar player. And he was like, wait, we haven't recorded anything yet. But they had a recording of it, so it was kind of weird. So obviously some rabid fan stalking us when we were young. So I was in Kashmir, and we came up with this scam. And we, solicited money from people, and we bought a keyboard. So we issued stock. And which were actually tiny little cards that had our names on them, and the fact that they had donated $5. So we ended up getting about $300 out of this. God, I don't know how that happened. So we did, early entrepreneurism, and so we bought this great Yamaha analog keyboard, and it was amazing. And so the keyboard player that we had was unfortunately kind of a dork, and he couldn't play keyboards, and so we had to kick him out of the band. So I wasn't the keyboard guy because I was still the singer, but I got to take the keyboard home and I got to play with it. So I would put on the pink noise and the white noise generators, and put these huge long oscillations on, and I would just sit and listen to them for hours, and it was phenomenal. It was great. So that's kind of where I really got into that. But I was also really, really into bands like Kraftwerk and Yellow Magic Orchestra, Einstürzen and Neubauten, Skinny Puppy, Cabaret Voltaire, and I found this amazing copy of None Such as Guide to Electronic Music, which is this 4-record set or 2-record set, and it just got bloops and bleeps and 80 kilohertz tones and 60 kilohertz tones and all this amazing stuff just for testing purposes. And but then it also had some electronic music compositions, and that just really just kicked me in the ass. And so I thought of all these amazing projects I was going to build. I was going to build 4-track machines from scratch and analog synthesizers from scratch. But I guess I just didn't have the know-how at the time to do so. So I ended up just making a whole bunch of weird compilation tapes for friends. And gave them out, and it was pretty exciting. But in college, I actually started doing my own sort of experimental music, and I started acquiring technology. I was always sort of I hate the word gear whore, but because that's a person who spends all of his money on the latest raddest shit. I'm the guy who finds the greatest raddest shit for $5. I'm the guy who has the Obtanium eye.
It's the stuff that was the greatest, hottest shit 5 to 10 years
Exactly. The stuff that used to be the really cool shit that people are throwing away, I repurpose and make into something totally new. And so there was a swap meet in Huntington Beach that I used to go to all the time that was the god of swap meets. Laney's pretty good, but this one was really good too. And I just started collecting all this weird stuff, and I was doing cassette to cassette and scraping metal on microphones and doing weird soundtracks for my films. And so that kind of is what started when I was doing a bunch of filmmaking. I started doing these soundtracks, and that was pretty cool. And then later on, when I moved to San Francisco, I hooked up with my friend Scott Banning, who actually I knew in college in Long Beach, and we were really good friends. In fact, he is the guy that I first took LSD with, Scott Banning. Can you believe that? No, he's actually apparently living with his parents now because he's been having a lot of acid flashbacks. Anyway, so that was kind of exciting. So we formed a band called Valley Fever, and that was really an interesting band. We played the very first Burning Man pre-show at Somar in 1995, and that show was fairly remarkable because how we set up in a corner, and so there was this huge ring of people around us, and Scott had these large cardboard boxes that were wrapped up in gift wrap, and as the show progressed, our performance progressed, just all kinds of weird noise and stuff. He opened up the boxes, pulled out several cans of Lysol, and sprayed it in everyone's face. It was amazing. It was outrageous. I was laughing for days after that. And, I continue to this day to run into people where, they're like, wait a minute. That was the guy who sprayed Lysol in my face. Were you that guy? I said, no, I wasn't that guy. That was someone else. So that was really funny. That was a hilarious thing. But a lot of people didn't really enjoy that. Yep. So basically at Cell also, as I was performing in all these different bands, after Hollow Earth, I started doing all my own stuff and collecting just large amounts of technology. Cell was a wonderful nexus for technology because since I was a technical director, I had a lot of technology that I brought into the place, but a lot of people knew that I was a techno dweeb and would bring me all kinds of weird stuff. So I would, I'd been formulating this idea for many, many years of omnimedia. And omnimedia was the ultimate commingling of all media to me. It was the ultimate blending of audio with video in recombinant loop systems where people were doing video were sending to audio people, and audio people were sending to the video people, and everyone was mixing in this huge recombinant loop. And the cool thing about Cell is Cell allowed me to do that. It allowed me to do the huge show that omnimedia had to be at a large space. And since I lived there and I was the tech director, all of my technology was there. So I could do these massive shows with 13 bands or electronic music groups playing, and 3 to 6 visual artists that were sending and receiving to multiple projectors, and being able to choose and sample from other people's sources. And so omnimedia happened at Cell, and that was just the raddest. It was the greatest thing. So Brock, I think I'm passing you up here. So
What is omnimedia?
I just told you.
Are all of these gadgets that you have around you now omnimedia?
Yes, they are omnimedia, and you can't pronounce it correctly. Another flawed voice synthesis technology. So basically, this is sort of a small sampling of what omnimedia is all about. Just all these weird little doodads that I would hook up, and also encourage other people to come and hook up. And it was all about the sharing of trickle-down technology. Trickle-down technology is stuff that you've coveted for so long, you'll eventually find in a swap meet or garage sale. It's like, there it is. I wanted that so bad 5 years ago, and now I got it for $5. And so then you hook it up to something else, and this to something else, and like this, for example, this little camera is actually from a Tyco Kid Cam. And what I have done is something horrible to it. I have taken it out of its original casing. I don't know if you can see, there it is. And I'm really into repurposing technology into Altoids cases. So I took the whole board and put it into an Altoids case and wired up the actual imaging sensor here. There it is. Thank you very much. Here's the imaging sensor, and I put it on a gooseneck lamp, so that's the illumination source. and put a little lens on there that allows it to do a little more close-up viewing, and then I can control the light, the actual light value with this little guy here. I can punch you if you want. And so that's kind of a really interesting way of repurposing, like taking a bunch of different things that I've sort of found along the way, taking them apart, putting them into something new.
You're going to demonstrate some?
I'm going to actually demonstrate some. I want to talk about this real quick. This, I don't know if you can see it, is a Nintendo Entertainment System. And some of the visuals you were seeing earlier is that. And so I've hacked the Nintendo Entertainment System, added an audio input that changes the graphics, which I'm not going to show you right now, but has a couple of different states, and it has the manipulation wire that you can pull to change aspects of the graphics, which is pretty funny, and but it's fully playable. That's the cool part. You can play Mario Brothers or Duck Hunt, and it totally works. And sound even comes off of it, but I didn't hook that up. But you know, if you can guess where the little blocks are, then you know you can probably win this game. See, look, I just hit a little turtle. So yeah, and you know the Duck Hunt thing works with a little light gun and everything, and you can mess around with the graphics, and it's still fully playable. Wow, I just fell down a huge gap here. Apparently, there's a large gap there. That really sucked. But the cool part is I can actually I have an audio input. So as the game is being played or whatever, the graphics will change based on the audio source that I put into it. So that's a pretty neat little hack thing. Let's go back to here for a moment. Actually, perhaps here. What I'm going to show you next is I have a couple of funny little things here. All right, I need actually a volunteer who doesn't mind getting their mind slightly changed, modified, and changed slightly. Someone I don't know well. Peter, your mind is already altered. Come on, a volunteer. It doesn't hurt that bad.
Here's the peer pressure. Is it okay?
What, I have no volunteers?
Is it okay with Brock?
Brock? I've pretty much thrown Brock away.
Brock's so we can demonstrate.
Brock's a little slow. Well, I could go by the script. Why, yes, they are. Would you like me to demonstrate?
Whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll need a volunteer for the audience.
Who's had the most to drink? Come on, hurry up.
Come on, it won't hurt. It feels really good, actually. All right. Come on down. I know you. You're Jennifer.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're Nona.
Yes.
Okay. Please sit down in the chair. Okay, hang on a second. So this is the Omnidyne Limited Psychotronics Brain Reconfigurator Unit. So you'll notice a slight tingling, and sometimes people expel their bowels occasionally. So be careful. I do have some dependent undergarments over here.
Oh, my favorite.
Okay, so lean down a little bit and carefully place your head into the orifice. Okay, there's pointy things in there, so be careful. Okay, now scoot up, scoot up. There you go. Pointy things, careful, pointy things. Okay. What's that?
What's it called?
This is the Omnidyne Limited Psychotronics Brain Reconfigurator Unit.
It works.
You ready? Feel good?
Looks great.
It does your hair too, by the way. And apparently it fixes baldness. I don't know, someone went into it bald, they came out and they looked like Donald, I mean, How you doing? You okay? Any sphincters opening? All right, there you go. All right, excellent. So you're slightly altered. You may not notice a difference for a couple of months. You'll be in the middle of something, and all of a sudden, okay. Excellent. Now sling her on. All right. On to something more exciting.
What is it?
I don't know. That was more exciting when you're actually the person, and if all of you could come do it, you should, but you don't necessarily need to do it now. The next thing I have is a mind-controlled drum machine.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
Right.
Now, I need another volunteer for this, but it needs to be someone really zen, and I want it to be John Law.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I need a volunteer. And I think John needs to do this.
Come on, John.
So this requires relaxation. Okay. So this is the control unit of the brain-controlled drum machine. Firmly place it. That's okay. I'm actually not going to be drumming. Let me calibrate. You are actually not going to be drumming.
You're controlling the
mind.
hippies, the little electronic hippies that do the drumming.
That's right. That's right. The electronic hippies are in the Hippie Research 16B, or the HR 16B by Koch. Okay, now John, relax a little. You can even sit in the brain reconfigurator chair if you like. Relax.
It feels really good.
Okay. How you feeling? Okay.
Feeling great, Tom, so far.
Okay, just relax. Okay, keep relaxing. You're not relaxing enough. Okay, I think you're not relaxing enough.
Just think about doggy heads.
Okay, relax. Wow, you're super relaxed. There goes John. Hang on.
Is my brain doing that, Tom?
I think it was supposed to be, but I think your brain is dead. I don't actually think your brain is doing anything because it's nothing personal, but my machine says your brain is dead. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Little brain activity. Not this one. If you want a sphincter adjustment, you can sit here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, relax. Keep relaxing. Hang on, I gotta get into the mode, man. You relax now. Keep relaxing. You're not relaxed. Relax.
There you go.
Hey, keep relaxing. And we went to a lot of amazing places and did a lot of cool stuff. So, and onward. Let's continue on, please.
Okay. Let's talk about your love life.
Well, I'm a happily married man. It's true.
You were married last year at St. Stupid's Day Parade.
Yes,
How
that's
was
true.
that?
It was actually really good. And here's a photo to prove it. This is myself and my lovely wife, Allie. And yeah, we asked Bishop Joey to marry us at St. Stupid's Day Parade last year, and he was honored and excited to do it, and it was really great. So we wrote up the script ahead of time. We played these sort of crazy pseudo.com wannabes and dressed up in suits and wore wigs, and nobody really recognized us until the very end where we threw our wigs off and revealed my bright blue and her bright white hair. It's really funny. So I'm a happily married man.
Well, that's about all the time I have.
How you doing, John?
Relax, dude.
Right, just relax. Yeah.
Yes. But I have planned service outage right now.
You're just asking
so
questions.
you're on
You don't
your
know what
own.
you're talking about.
Good night, everyone.
All right, so that's pretty much it for the first half. That's probably why it's not working. All right, so the second half we are going to do a circuit bending demonstration. We're going to do Slack can hack. Professor Werner V. Slack will be our guest technologician this evening, and he will be coming up to demonstrate circuit bending. So don't go away. Believe me, it gets better. What's that? Questions? Comments? Fan mail from someone? His hand is relaxed. Your hand is asleep. Let me give it a try. You broke it,
You can actually get these. Well, no, you don't want them signed, do you? That's all dramatic and stuff. No. Well, if you do, if you and you're willing to pay him an extra $5, you just might. So there's the God's Grandparents CD with and Univac Index. No, I was getting there. And then the Omni Micro, which Tom can tell you about, but that was a Bureau of Low Technology Omni Media extravaganza where they used just sounds from really old
classic video games.
How many bits? Not many bits. 8-bit video games. And
Actually, they're less than that. They're 4-bit and 8-bit.
8-bit and under. Okay, so
Nothing more than
the Omni Micro low-bit dueling consoles. Anyway, check these out, and Tom's got some for sale up here.
$8.
Just $8, which is cheaper than most, a buck a bit or more. And we should just go to the exciting show that we have following this. So I now turn it over to our studio announcer.
Okay, kids, it's Sunday night and time for everyone's favorite circuit bending show, Slack Can Hack. So, warm up your soldering irons, clear the dining room table of anything flammable. Don't forget to ask your folks to come in and supervise. And let's have a big hand for the host of Slack Can Hack, Professor Werner V. Slack.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. It's great to be here tonight. And as you've seen in our previous shows, we deal a lot in modifying technology, and I do a lot of demonstrations. But because of tonight's presidential election coverage, we were sort of pulled a little short. So what I'm actually going to do is just show some modified toys, things you can do at home, and I'm going to give you briefly a sort of a primer in how you at home can modify your own toys. There were little handouts that perhaps were handed out, perhaps not, which is tonight's recipe. So my lovely assistant is getting that now. And so what we have here actually is the classic Speak and Spell. This is actually a Speak and Math. Right? I'm sure most of you have seen these Speak and Maths. These are really excellent toys to modify. And this particular one is actually was given to me by Gustavo, and for a Christmas, actually a birthday gift a couple of years ago. This is actually the guts of a speak and spell, and it sounds really quite nice.
Thanks, Gustavo.
Thank you, Gustavo.
No, Gustavo.
I don't know if I'm up in the thing. Thank you. So you know all those sounds. Now it gets better. It just hurts the machine to do that. So that's pretty much that. That's pretty exciting. So that's an example of what you can do with modified technology. So what I'm going to do is give you a brief overview of the process of how you modify technology. Do you have your little handouts?
Yes.
Have you been getting these little handouts?
Yep.
You can take them home and read them thoroughly and use them as an example. Can you hear me out there?
Yeah.
Is this thing on? So what this basically gives you is a recipe kit of what you need to do. I was actually going to set up soldering iron and all that stuff, but instead I'm just going to show you some of the things that I've modified and the process of modification. So what this is, this horrible atrocity.
Oh my God, what is that horrible atrocity?
This incredibly horrible atrocity. Yeah, this should not exist. This really shouldn't exist. So basically the process of when I start trying to modify something is I touch the board. You pop it all apart.
What's the board?
What is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. There's something called a circuit board. Here, I'll demonstrate with Gustavo's lovely piece.
Integrated circuit board.
Oh no, Gustavo.
With a certain person.
It's a plant that is a horrible atrocity. I'm going to have to go a little lower here.
How low can you go, Tom?
I can go lower than you could possibly imagine.
Dr. Slack.
We want to draw it back.
And I'm Professor Slack tonight!
See how you are.
This half.
And don't forget. Okay. So here we are. So that's kind of a circuit board there. Yeah, get a little light on the subject. Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? It's weird and ungodly.
The nation of foreign land.
Make it stop! Okay, so what we have here is we have a little things. Okay, now what these are is these are resistors. Okay, this is a primitive laser pointer. Okay, but
Crush the resistors. Crush the resistors.
these are resistors, and we're going to crush the resistors and eat them. Okay, and this is pretty much the area that you need to deal with. Like the rest of this stuff, I mean, it certainly is cool. You know, this is your nice little LED display. An LED is light emitting diode, by the way, for those lay people out there. And these are the chips that store all the sounds and logic, which you really don't need to deal with. The stuff you need to be concerned about is resistors. That's the stuff. So when I'm actually modifying a toy for the first time, what I do is I take the board out and I touch the resistors. In fact, touching the resistors, I stroke them lovingly. I dream about resistors. So, are you getting a Woody? What? So, what you do is actually when you're modifying something, you're actually taking voltage away from the board, or you're adding voltage away from the board, or the chip where all the sounds are stored. Now, the chip wants to actually see a certain voltage to work correctly. When you modify something, you either add voltage or take voltage away from portions of the chip where the sounds are stored, thereby making it sound different or horrible. So So what you do is, I can even demonstrate by putting my fingers on the resistors here, and you can see what happens.
Oh. Does that hurt?
No. The cool part about low voltage is you don't even feel it. You can't even really feel voltage, DC voltage that is. Kids don't play with AC voltage. I did that once when I was a kid. I will never do it again. DC voltage will not hurt you.
The television.
Okay.
What happens if you lick it?
If you lick it, yeah, you probably feel it. So when touching it, you can actually find the areas on the board that you then start adding pots, which are potentiometers, which are variable resistors, or switches, that kind of thing. My favorite is optical resistors. Optical resistors are something where when you add light, there's more resistance. When you take away light, there's less resistance. And this has optical resistors integrated into the leaves. And what I've done...
What's it supposed to do?
Yeah, man. Oh, come on. Okay. So you can see a little optical resistor here. This little optical resistor. And this is a big, chunky optical resistor. And what you can do with these...
So they're attached to the board somehow?
Yes, and they're attached to the board. So when I first modified this particular horrific aberration in nature, the song that it plays ironically is Daisy, but it's this weird variation of Daisy. It starts out, because of course they couldn't buy the original Daisy, so they have like, how does it start? You know, also when you're modifying something, you hear the same phrase over and over and over and over, and until you get really, really just nauseated. And this one was particularly nauseating because this woman's voice saying, "Hello, isn't this a beautiful day?" And then it sings this horrible version of Daisy. So, so I decided to make it completely just, worse. I don't know if you can hear that. Is my board up?
Oh my god, it rotates.
Well, apparently the output is not working on this one. So there are risks involved when you modify toys. And the risks usually involve destroying the toy.
Which in this case would be a
Because inevitably you'll destroy the toy. So it's always a really, really good idea to have multiple toys, because then if you have multiple toys, if you screw one up, then you can always screw up the other one.
Was the face on there when you got it?
It's hacked off face.
I added the face.
Scary face.
Hang on, it gets better.
What were you saying about breaking it?
It'll work. Can you hear that mic on the mic?
You sick man, how could you do that to a pot of flowers?
I know, I love making technology that I feel that the original manufacturers would just shudder in horror because I'm doing this to their stuff. There's a lot of ambient light here. Can you hear that out there? And this is literally by me just, adding light or subtracting light from this optical resistor. And so it sort of becomes like an optical theremin in a sense, that you can then start doing things. But also touch, there's human contact points. Human contact points that you can touch, add your body's resistance to the board, and thereby change the sound even more. I call them emotors because it gives it more emotion. But the one cool thing about these optical resistors is it falls over and You can actually play it with a laser pointer from far away. I can't see it.
You're close.
Here, can I steady on your shoulder here?
And laser sight would be a little easier, I think.
You know, and actually, normally it spins too. Can you see the spinning? For some reason, it's
Not the face! Not the face!
okay. So, he's making all kinds of. So there's that, and here's another horrible variation. Pardon me, excuse me. I'm sorry. So horrifying. On public television. So this one. Well, that was certainly not as interesting as the other. But you get the idea. Okay. Yeah, it sort of horrifies children for miles. So what you do is you buy like these cheap little toys, you know. This is probably the worst thing I've ever found. I will fix this. And they come in like little cool boxes, you know. So what I do is, I mean, this is still going. Cool. Yeah, right. See. So this is unmodified, but see what I do is I actually keep all the boxes and then redo the boxes and repackage it like in a completely new way.
Carefully back in the store.
And yes, exactly. And so then we have things like this, which is, you know, this is really fun. It's got a really nice big knob. Look at that knob. All right, this
Is that your knob, Tom?
Yes, it is my knob. I'll let you touch it later if you'd like. So this is kind of funny because I don't know. Well, you listen. Well, like I said, okay, you have danger in toys. Like the reticence of them working, they sometimes don't like to work. You have to sort of coax them, and also they die. So whenever you modify a toy, always remove the batteries if it's going to be sitting for a period of time. Shut up. So, in fact, I'll tell you a funny story. My first modified toy was this beautiful, amazing instrument. It was a speak and spell, but it was British. It was this woman's British voice. And it had full-size keys on it, not just like little touch keypad. And it worked beautifully, made these amazing ambient soundscapes. But I fried it. I set it up for a show, it tested it out, perfect. It was an omni-media show, and I went off for the next couple of hours and set up the rest of the crap. Came back, ready to perform, and it was dead. I've never been able to recover it. I never recorded it, so whenever I modify toys, I always record them while I'm doing it, and I reach a point where I'm like, done. Yeah. If you go any further, you'll probably fuck it up. Yeah. So you gotta know when to stop. That's the hard.
Are you saying this is a dangerous addiction?
It is a dangerous addiction. You gotta know when to stop. Stop buying the toys, because there's so many great electronic toys out there now. Okay, so here's this one. If I can get it to work. Give that case a
Maybe the knob's too big.
Yeah, I think the knob is too big.
Tell us about the dead dog.
Well, there's this dead dog I had once when I was a child.
Modified it.
I added some global electrons. You know, here's the danger of when you're trying to demonstrate any kind of technological instruments, especially ones made by human beings. They always fuck up. Never ever work. You know, and I tested this like literally an hour ago, and it was working fine.
You got batteries.
No, it's not batteries. There we go.
Spank it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sounds really horrible. Back in again. Different bad horrible. Different kind of horrible. Hang on. It gets better. So I'm gonna sit and listen to that for hours. Weeks, probably. Okay. What else do I have to show you? Anything else? All right. I think that's about it. We talked about that. Oh yeah, you know, Altoids cans. You know, whatever. Fuck the Altoids. All right. You want some Altoids? I'll give you some Altoids. Yeah. So part of the can, if you read here. It says on the bottom, it says, or very near the bottom, a tin of Altoids. And of course, what that's for is for putting your electronics into, like this, for example. Here.
What have you done?
Horrible things. My parents are horribly embarrassed. And so what you do is, you know, you just take one of these, because they're wonderful metal cases, and most electronic toys, the boards fit perfectly inside. So first of all, what you do is you do this, and you hand them out to your friends. Send them around. Thanks. Yeah, the royalty compliments the house, apparently. So then you have this great. Gotta get the dust out. Dust is bad, you know. Maybe the mint will make it better. So then you have your little Altoids case, and that's pretty good. That's about it. So what we're gonna do next is what's our timeline?
Look at your watch.
Can you read that? I can. It's 10:12. So like, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Modify your watch.
Okay. So next we're gonna take a short break, and then we have. Doss and Peter Washburn and myself are going to debut the Billy Bastard Barbershop Quartet. And the Billy Basses are one of my current obsessions of modifying these Billy Basses. So this is an example of, like, you know, the thing. This is actually a trout. This is the box, Billy Bass box. Here. And oh yeah, there's plenty of variations of the Billy Bass. The Billy Bass actually, I first discovered it when we were coming back from the Negative Land tour, and we were like in Walgreens or something. It was a truck stop, like in the middle of nowhere. We were like, California, we see it, and we found it. We fell over laughing, and we bought a bunch of them. So the first thing I thought was like, wow, I can modify that. And so I did. And so the first one that I modified was actually this one here.
Did you play the originals unmodified?
Yeah. One thing I always do with the modifications is make it have normal and modified mode. So you can always do the normal and modified mode. And this one actually removes. So yes, it's very very handy. And so what we did here is I asked Doss and I asked Peter to modify, bass type fish creatures. And they did so. And this is the horrible result. Oh, but you have a horrible buzzing. I know. Oh, but you have like a horrible buzzing. But like no sound. I know. But I haven't done anything. You have a horrible buzzing. Okay, and so what I did is I asked, so here's an Altoids, a nice example of Altoids. So this is the first Billy Bass that I modified. So if someone will take this and hold it.
Touch it.
So this is like, my first idea was like, okay, cool, this is a really fun idea. Like, people should actually hold these things because it's really funny and it feels like a really good dead fish. And then I repurposed all the electronics into 2 Altoids cases. This is a 2 Altoids case project. So 2. Okay, hang on, I have power. So then Doss did this one.
That's not an Altoids case.
And
He's a rebel.
it's super close to an Altoids case. Give us a moment. And then Peter came up with the crazy idea of, well, what if I made my fish MIDI controllable? And so he did, and it's MIDI controllable. Okay, let's test yours first. Okay, we don't want to test you. How loud should it be? No, but I have to turn you up in the mixer.
No, don't trust him. Test
Okay, what
it.
about you? I just want to test you.
Do they have names?
Billy Bastard Barbershop Quartet.
No, but I mean each of them.
They're called Billy Bastards, man.
Is that like Darwin or something?
They're twins.
Mine is not plugged in. Okay, hang on a second, Dawson. So bear with us. No, is yours plugged in? Mine is good.
Have you guys ever played anywhere before?
Huh?
Hey, Tom, put it on the board.
Oh yeah, so this one actually can go mounted on the board. I still haven't figured out. Okay, so hang on a second, Doc. I gotta get my that's good. Wow. I had power issues.
Don't eat the ground.
So much better than the original.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, when I first did mine, people were like laughing so hard because everyone had seen them in Walgreens, like ad nauseum for the last 6 months.
One of the words of Walgreens hates.
Oh God, I know. We should bring these in to show to people.
Yeah, make a film.
Yeah.
So I actually made this for my friend Peter Conheim, and this is his birthday gift this year. So you can hang it onto his wall, and then you can pull it out and feel it. 'Cause the best part about it is actually holding the fish, because the rubber is just so sick. Okay, that's good. Okay, you are 6. Let me do a sound check real quick. So this is the debut of the Billy Bastard Barbershop Quartet. Probably the last show I will ever do. All right.
Is this one just going along this time?
Well, let's demonstrate each one individually. So, Peter, do your thing. all in 0. Okay. Normal.
Put it in the light.
Yeah!
Put it in the light. Can't see it.
Can't see him.
Can't see it.
Oh, light.
Put it in the light. There you go.
As with all electronics, you have to tweak them to work. Okay, there's that one. And then here's this one. That's why it's getting the ground now. We're actually going to do like an improvised piece or something. Okay. Costumes were built by my lovely wife, Allie. Thank you, Allie.
Tom, why do they call it noise?
Because it's all frequencies put together at once. That's what
You should be re-educated.
yeah, noise is an acronym. But I can't tell you the definition of it. So, any questions?
Questions for
Why? Because. Next question.
Have you ever met a gadget you didn't like?
No. Next question.
What time is it?
Good question. 10:28.
How does an oscilloscope work?
What's the next on the video?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of questions from the internet. I solicited questions earlier, and I'm going to briefly give you.
Are these real questions?
These are actual,
VCR?
real questions. Yes, I
For
can.
people who surf the net all day long.
And if you were smart, you would buy one that actually syncs up to a PBS channel and sets its time automatically. That's what I do.
VCR Plus?
No, it's actually this carrier wave, the PBS channels. You set it on your VCR, and it always has time.
Or just tape over the display?
No more flashing 12s. That irks me.
We're done with flashing.
My mom, my mom always calls me all the time. She's like, I'm having problems with my stereo. I can't get it out of military time. I'm like, oh my God. How did you get it into military? Let's see, I'm going to ask a couple of questions here, or actually answer a couple of questions. Jeffrey McGrew of Kalamata Falls, Wisconsin asks, what is your favorite lateral thinking product where someone came up with some combination of ideas that works, maybe not that well, and that makes sense in some strange way, but winds up to be really kind of a bad idea overall? Actual question from Secret Agent Toast.
Jeffrey will receive a transcript of tonight's show.
Yes. Actually, my PowerBook is recording every word I say. The salad shooter, of course. The salad shooter was this like weird hybrid product that like could do everything. I even own one. Okay.
When you say everything, do you really mean everything?
I do. It can even tell time. If you turn it into
Military times?
Next question.
Next question.
Hey Tom,
Ah.
have you ever modified a Ronco pocket fisherman?
No, but I would love to. Although there's not really much electronics, those are like just small mechanical things.
Oh, okay.
My dad used to have one of those. I got him for Christmas and he hated it.
Make the pitch for people to give you stuff.
Oh, here's a pitch for people to give me stuff. Now, if you have nieces, nephews, sisters, brothers, anybody who has broken, fucked up toys, broken, if you know what I mean, i.e. batteries don't work. I got one from my nephew, you know, like the batteries didn't work and I turned into a horrible thing. So, by all means, give them to me. And I will turn them into something even more horrible than the manufacturers could possibly ever imagined. And you can email me at univac at faux.2, faux.to, which is my fake address.
Another question, what does your wife think of all these broken toys around the house?
She hates them. Right, she's like going, ah. I'm a recovering addict. Yes, I'm a collector of all things.
Don't enable his addiction.
That's right. Okay, let's see. I'm going to find some good questions real quick. Several of you actually out there asked, why am I not rich and famous yet? Good question. Michael Souza of Falabee, North Carolina says, when do we do lunch? I had it today. I don't know. Jane Poe of Wonderland, Louisiana asks, what are some of your earliest childhood memories? Actually, my earliest childhood memories are of blue-green carpet and getting my teeth knocked out from a billiard ball. That's a funny story. We'll have to wait till the next one.
What number was it?
You know, I don't remember. It was probably... I don't even know. Okay, I'll tell you the story quickly. My brother and I were rolling billiard balls back and forth underneath a bed that had a bedcloth, right? The bedspread, right? That went all the way down to the floor. Duh. Throwing it back and forth, it went like 2 times, and then it smacked me in the teeth. And I was like, waiting for it. So I don't even know what color it is. Peter Washburn of Otan, New Guinea asks a couple of questions. This is Peter Washburn from Otan, Guinea. What flavor of gum do you find to be most inspirational in your music? Of course, fruit stripe gum. Why is the future different from the past? Because watches tell you so. Why does a bee? I don't know why. I don't know why either. Yes, I did run away from home as a child. Actually, I didn't. I used to hide in the closet. And I would act like I wasn't there. I would become pieces of clothing. And I would hide. My parents, I could hear them searching for hours. And I would hide because I just could not deal with them.
Okay, I think on the hiding in the closet story, we're going to end this.
Oh, wait, one last question. Christian Santos of Hobnob, Texas asks, who put Whitey in the White House?
You did, baby. You did. Who voted for Nader?
Okay, that's it.
Okay, let's go. Let's have a big round of applause for. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Do you have something else to? He does have CDs for sale.
I have CDs for sale.
For real,
Anyone wants any
for real.
CDs? They're really exciting and dumb.
Give Miss Fish back. And that's it. Asking more questions. Thanks for coming. Come next month for Charles Gatewood.
Yes!